Don Schmidt, the book Kahuna, coming at you with today's tip of the day for publishing. And the tip of the day is a little recollection on commuting. I just wrote my 100th blog post on the bookkahuna.wordpress.com site. I did a little nostalgic look back at when I started out in the industry back in the mid-1980s. I got into publishing through the back door. I went to school. I got a degree in European history and English lit. And back in that time, if you weren't going to use that for teaching, there wasn't very much you were going to do with that kind of a degree. I went and looked around and started to get the Sunday Times classifieds, sending out resume after resume, hundreds of resumes, entry-level positions. It seemed like something in publishing was the way to go, because I had friends who always asked me, what are you going to do when you get out? Well, where are you going to work? What kind of industry are you going to go into? And my answer was always, well, I'll just look for an industry that will train you to do a job, kind of like on-the-job training. And the publishing industry at that time, although it's not really anymore, you can go to school, as we all know, and get a degree in publishing. But at that time, the publishing industry was an apprenticeship. They wanted people right out of college to go into entry-level positions and just move up the ladder, either within one company or, as I did, work for many different companies and move up the ladder over time. Now, I never really wanted to work and live in Manhattan or Queens or Brooklyn or Staten Island. I always wanted to stay out in the suburbs of Long Island. So I ended up riding the Long Island Railroad for 16 years. Roughly that breaks down to 7,000 plus rides on the Long Island Railroad, which is kind of scary and also kind of sad. But the experiences that I had, hot cars where I just sat down and stayed in the car because I was probably on my way home anyway, and I didn't care if I was sweaty and when I got home, and nobody else was going to care. Strikes where neither side was one that you really wanted to support, and since the guys who were sweeping out the cars were starting at $50,000 a year, and I'm working in publishing starting at $13,000 a year, I really didn't have any compunction to be on one side or the other as far as the strikes went, although they inconvenienced everyone, because once the railroad shut down, there was absolutely no way to get into the city. You would have to drive in tons of traffic because everyone who took the railroad was now on the road on the expressway, going to Shea Stadium to jump on the number 7 train and get into Manhattan to go to work. Then you had the dirty bathrooms. You'd get in, you'd sit down, you got a seat, and all of a sudden you noticed that the stench was all around you, that the bathroom was overflowing or it was dirty or whatever. Then you had the most fear-inducing episode that I could ever think of was December 7th, 1993, when Colin Ferguson went in and shot up a train on the Ronkonkoma line. For months, I had to look around every time I got on the train because I always wanted an escape route to the next car, just in case. You never knew if it was going to happen again. It could be copycats. Who knew? But as far as that all goes, the commuting that I did on the Long Island Railroad, the experience gave me stories. It built character, and it's part of my experience for what happened when I was working in New York in those 16 years. So without the commute, you wouldn't have the rest of the stories. And then there were the stories that every Friday night we would go out after work, and you didn't have to worry about driving. You could just go out and go to the place where you and all of your friends used to go and hang out and stay there until like 1 in the morning, and you could still catch the 1:40 train home, and it didn't matter. You were fine. So it was part of what got me to think about I need to change, and that's why I made the decision and took a job out here in Colorado, not once but twice. And I'm glad that I did, and hopefully this will be a nice addition to my blog post, which is number 100. So for my 100th blog post, this is all about the Long Island Railroad. I don't envy anybody who has to ride it these days, but you know what? You've got to do it to get to work. Hopefully they let you work remotely now. Anyway, daily tip of the day, commuting, Long Island Railroad. Don't do it if you don't have to. We'll be back tomorrow with another tip of the day. Don Schmidt, the Book Kahuna, signing off for now. Bye-bye.